Hello friends, this is Worm, and today I wanted to talk about armor in Destiny 2 and some of the issues that we have with armor. So I want to ask you something before we go any further. Do you find yourself keeping a majority, a lot, or even a couple of pieces of armor that you collect throughout the game? Except with maybe the exception of exotic armor. We'll talk about exotic armor a little bit later on in the video. But when it comes to legendary armor, how much legendary armor are you realistically keeping? Every single drop that you get, how many of those pieces do you actually keep? And if you're anything like me, the answer to that question is none, or maybe like one in about 500 pieces, right? That is a problem. And I want to talk about this because armor has not seen a great rework since they removed elemental affinities with armor, which was a couple or several seasons ago, I guess at this point. But armor feels almost like a pointless drop. Like whenever I'm doing a strike and I get a piece of armor at the end, 90%, 99% of the time, I immediately open my inventory and I just dismantle it. I don't even look at the stats. And the reason why is because I know that it is going to be low stat and it's not going to compare to the armor sets that I have on now. Even in in-game activities such as raids, dungeons, stuff like that, when I get armor, I will take a brief look at it. If I don't see the spikes where I want the spikes at, again, it's just immediately dismantled. And I kind of want to talk about what we could potentially do to fix that issue, because armor right now, like once you get a good set of armor, that's it. Like my Titan, for example, I have not changed a piece of armor on my Titan build in like years at this point. Like I'm still using the same couple of masterworked legendary pieces of armor that I've had for years. And occasionally I'll add in another one. Occasionally, I'll get a spiky, resilience discipline chess piece or something like that. But at the same time, like it's not happening very often. It's not as happening as often as weapons, for example. Think about it. When you get a Rossarago, if you get a Rossarago with subsistence and onslaught, are you keeping it? Yeah, chances are probably. But if you get one with repulsor brace and golden tricorn, are you going to keep it? There's a pretty good chance you might want to keep it. Or if you get one with, X perk and X perk, blah, 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 and stuff like that, you're probably going to want to keep a couple different ones. Like I know I can think of my vault right now, and I've got a couple different rolls for several weapons. And every time I get a weapon, I take a look at the rolls because, hey, like some weapons have potentially good rolls that I might want to keep and invest time in and masterwork and try out and stuff like that. But with armor, it's completely different, because armor, if it doesn't have 65, 66, 67 stat roll on it, it's immediately going out the window. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, yeah, that's a great source of, I guess, legendary shards, which are going away in Final Shape anyways, but at the same time, why doesn't armor have the same, almost, the same feeling as weapons? Like every time you get a Rossarago to drop, for example, you look at it and it's like, ooh, like could this be something really, really cool? And you look, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it gets dismantled, maybe not. Maybe you keep it and use it till you get a better one. And I think for new players, this is not as big of an issue. Like armor is constantly changing, and especially once you discover tools like Destiny 2 armor picker and stuff like that, like, you're gonna find yourself, new players will find themselves keeping more and more pieces of armor. But as a veteran player, once we get artifice armor, especially artifice armor, there's no point in keeping armor around. And so today I wanted to talk about how we could change that. Starting off, let's talk about weapons. I know this is a video about armor. I want to talk about why we keep different weapons. And the reason why is because the rolls on said weapons. We have 4 columns. We have the barrel column, we have the magazine column, we have perk 1 and perk 2. And depending on the type of weapon, it's different. Magazine and barrel are a little bit different, but it's all 4 columns, 2 options in the first 2 columns, on 1 option in the second one, unless you do some sort of activity that gives you bonus perks in those other columns. But there's so many different rolls that you can get, and different rolls that do different things. A repulsor brace onslaught Rossarago is going to perform differently than, say, a golden tricorn and subsistence. Can they both fit into a void build? Yes. Say the one with repulsor brace, better off on hunter with Gear Falcon's halberd, but the other one is better off on Titan. Subsistence golden tricorn, better on Titan. There's a lot of different weapons that have different roles that fit different builds. But when it comes to armor is unique to your specific class. I can't get a, you know, a Titan chest piece and then go put it on my hunter. It doesn't work like that. Unlike a weapon where I can get it on my Titan, move it to my hunter and stuff like that. Now, armor does have some randomness to it, and the randomness that's associated with armor is in these stats. There's 6 different stats, 3 that are tied to your player's performance and 3 that are tied to your ability cooldowns, super grenade, melee, and stuff like that. And those are the only things that really change. But like I said earlier, like if you have a role that's like 55 total stat points, is that going to be something you're going to keep? Probably not. Definitely not. Definitely not if you're me. I have, you know, I have 67, 68 stat rolls on so many pieces of armor. I don't need something with 55 stat rolls. So aside from stats, what else changes with armor? Nothing, right? And especially once Bungie added transmog to the game, once you get a piece of armor one time, it's pointless to get any more after that. So how can we fix it? I think one of the best ways that Bungie could potentially fix it is when you have armor sets, what Bungie should do is do like they've done with seasonal armor sets. In your seasonal armor set, for example, the Worm Guard set from Season of the Wish, you have the ability to get more experience more experience towards your Wish seasonal rank. Not seasonal rank, your what is it, Riven's rewards rank, I can't remember the name of it, but you can rank that up faster. If you wear 4 pieces of armor, you get like a 12% boost or something like that. Like that's actually a reason to put on different armor than what you currently have. Unfortunately, Bungie stopped there. That's the only thing that they've done. Yes, you do have raid armors that can hold a raid slot, and we'll talk more about that in a second. You have dungeon armors with artifice, you know, with the artifice trait on it that allow you to slot in an extra stat boost to whatever your piece of armor is. But at the same time, like the stats that weapons come with, and we've talked about this, it doesn't warrant changing up the armor. And I think that if Bungie added this a bunch of unique perks that can roll on armor, just that do little things, you know, 5% damage resistance from fallen enemies, or 10% bonus power weapon damage, or something like that, just some kind of origin trait on our armor in Destiny 2, I really feel like more players would start looking at the armor that you get, and especially if Bungie kind of has a variety. You can get anywhere from a 2% damage reduction all the way up to a 12% damage reduction, just for an example. So you get a chest piece, for example, from the raid, and it has like 62 stat roll, really low, but you inspect it, and it has this, reduced damage from Hive combatants by 12%. That's kind of a big deal. Like, yeah, like it's only 62 stat roll, which is really low, but 12% damage resistance from Hive enemies, when you go to do Crota's End, that's going to be a big deal. And then in Crota's End, you stack multiple of those pieces of armor together, and you've got, let's just say you have 4 pieces of armor that have 10% damage resistance. Like that's an additional 40% damage resistance on top of whatever. Now, of course, you have to get really lucky to get a 10% damage resistance against a certain type of enemy, or maybe a 10% damage boost to a certain weapon type or something like that. But I think that would be a way that Bungie could actually make armor something that people look at and decide, hey, I want this. And instead of just making, bonus damage or bonus damage resistance to X thing, have all different types of stuff. From, we got damage resistance, we got increase in damage, but also you could say you get more glimmer drops. You get a higher chance of ascendant alloys from activities that grant ascendant alloys. You have, the chance to get double rewards. You have the chance to do this, that, and the other. And I know that they have ghost mods that can do some of that stuff, but imagine if you're, I'm trying to farm, say, ascendant shards. I'm trying to farm ascendant shards, so I'm going to go do a Grandmaster dungeon, and I'm going to put on a full set of armor that has a chance to give me additional ascendant shards after completing an activity that grants ascendant shards. So I've got an exotic, and I got 4 pieces that give me, a 5% chance each. That's an additional 20% chance to get an extra ascendant shard. But it's not just stacking like that. Like, it's a 5% chance to award you an additional one. So it's not 20% to get an extra, it's 5% chance to get another one per piece of armor that you have on. So potentially you could get 3 from completing the Grandmaster, and then because you have 4 pieces of armor on, you get an additional 4. You get 7 from 1 Grandmaster completion. Like that would be something that would make me personally want to use armor, or not use armor, but keep armor and look at it. Like, yes, the Artifice armor from Master Dungeons is fantastic. That's a very unique trait that it has. The ability to slot in an extra 3 points into whatever stat you want. That can push you into those triples or even quad 100 stats. But say raid armor, like we said, say you have raid armor, Crota's End armor. It's got bonuses to all kinds of different stuff, and your Artifice armor, like, yeah, it has an extra stat, but maybe your Artifice armor stats, its bonus trait, its origin trait, as we should probably just call it, is not nearly as, potent as your Artifice armor, or the Artifice armor trait, origin trait is not nearly as potent as maybe Crota's End trait. And I think that one of the keys that Bungie should do with this is, if they were to go with this route and add origin traits to armor, have it be an equal chance to get your bonuses from this armor across the board. And what do I mean by that? Because that sounds a little confusing. World armor that drops, your armor with like 54 and 55 stat rolls has the chance to drop with a plus 10, plus 15% extra damage, just like a Crota's End, Master Crota's End armor piece, or a Master Master Dungeon Artifice armor piece has the chance to drop with, like, a plus 15% or plus 10, plus 15% extra damage, something like that. Because again, the last thing we want is to have an issue where we have currently, where, oh, well, yeah, like they added this new thing to the armor system. They had a new origin traits with armor, which is really cool and all that. But once I get my full set of, perfect armor, perfect Artifice armor from my Master Dungeon, I'm once again done with armor. Having that variety, yeah, you get a great set of Artifice armor. It has the spikes where you want it. It's Artifice armor, but it only has 3% damage resistance, while this regular piece of armor that you got from, say, the Crucible or something has plus 12% damage resistance or something like that. I think that would be an awesome trait to have. And like I said, besides just damage resistances, just all kinds of stuff in the game, additional rewards, maybe additional experience, additional weapon leveling, so that players want to keep multiple sets of armor. Like, hey, I need to go level my crafted weapons, so I'm going to put on my crafted weapons and I'm going to put this armor on, and everything I do is going to give me more experience towards completing that crafted weapons, leveling up that crafted weapon. And I know that you can technically, if you want to, you can spend materials to level it up, but not everybody wants to do that. And so I think that could be an awesome thing. Now, let's talk about raid armor and Artifice armor. I want to talk about, first of all, with raid armor and raid weapon mods. I think that raid weapon mods is a great idea by Bungie, but it's not enough. And the reason why I say it's not enough is because most of our builds are catered around all aspects of the game. Whether it's, Trials of Osiris, Grandmasters, like, we have a perfect build that we use and we like. We have very specific perks on it. We have very specific, modifications to our stats. We have very specific mods on them, and we don't want to go changing them. And yeah, like, the raid mods are very beneficial in their given raids, but the fact that you have to unequip some of your other mods to equip a raid mod is just silly. And I think that raid mods, what Bungie should do with raid mods is remove the cost to equip raid mods. If you want to go do, say, Volta Glass, for example, you can put on Volta Glass armor, you can put on all the modifications that you want in all 3 or 4 slots, however many there are, and then you can still slot your Volta Glass specific raid mods in there. Make raid mods not have any cost associated with them. Like, you did that with Artifice armor. Like, Artifice armor has it's 0 cost. It costs nothing to equip an Artifice armor, an Artifice stat increasing mod on there. So do the same thing with raid armor sets. Make raid armor sets not cost any of that extra energy. And yeah, I know that raid armor mods are very powerful, and they can really change how, your survivability in a raid and your damage output in a raid, and they can change a lot of stuff. But at the same time, you're having to commit to wearing a full set of raid armor. And maybe it's the perfect role, maybe it's not, I don't know, but you have to commit to that. And it would lead to some balancing, because okay, do I want to equip a full set of King's Fall armor, for example, so I can have all the King's Fall mods, or do I just want to equip maybe the Mark? That way I can keep the rest of my build how I have it, but I can add on an extra raid mod. Like, let players have that opportunity to do that. But that being said, yeah, that's my idea for armor. It sucks that armor's not very useful outside of what you have. And I think that I think probably all hardcore players that play this game like it was religion would probably agree that armor needs some type of an overhaul or a rework to carry us further into the game. And yes, here's the reality of it. I am aware that just like with weapons, when you get that perfect and perfected set, it has all the stats that you want. It has the spikes where you want it. It's, let's say, artifice armor. It has the origin trait that you want. Yes, I understand that you're still going to run into the same problem, but let's be honest, what's the likelihood of you getting that perfect armor set? Probably a lot lower than just currently, where you can farm duality, or you can farm Warlord's Ruin and get a really decent set of armor in a matter of just a couple hours. Like, I think that would be fantastic. But yeah, that's it for me. I want to hear your thoughts on it. How do you feel about this rework I had? How do you feel about adding origin traits to armor pieces? Do you have any cool ideas for origin traits that could be seen on pieces of armor? Let me know all that in the comments below. But yeah, that's it for me. Of course, if you liked today's video, drop a like, helps the channel a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content and conversations such as this one. And do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.